Hello friends, welcome back to our channel where we share fun and engaging stories. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our new stories. Today, we will tell you a story about a bird whose brave act surprised everyone in the forest. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, lived a little bird who was the most timid creature in the woods. He was so frightened by everything around him that even the falling of a single leaf from a tree would send him into a tizzy. His name was Birdie, and he was easily the most scaredy cat among all the birds in the forest. Now this little bird had many friends, big and small, but he felt most comfortable around a wise old owl named Hoot. One evening, when Birdie was perched on a branch outside his home, sharing his daily woes with Hoot, suddenly the sky darkened and the wind began to pick up speed, sending shivers down Birdie's spine. Oh dear, he chirped, flapping his wings in a panic. A storm is coming. What should I do? Where should I hide? But the wise old owl remained silent, his eyes gleaming with amusement. Birdie, seeing no signs of concern from the other birds, gathered his courage and ventured out into the heavy downpour. As he flew over the river, he noticed a tiny sapling swaying dangerously in the current. It was too young to withstand the force of the water, and if something didn't stop it soon, it would be swept away. Birdie was filled with pity for the sapling, but his own fear was overwhelming. He wanted to help, but he couldn't bear the thought of staying in such a violent storm. Just then, a group of larger birds flew past, their feathers ruffled by the wind. They were bragging about their bravery, claiming they weren't afraid of anything. "I've faced storms like this before," boasted a peacock, spreading its tail feathers wide. "And I've been caught in much stronger winds," added a hawk, ruffling its feathers. But they, too, quickly flew away, pretending they were going to save the day while secretly hoping to find shelter somewhere else. The little bird watched them go, feeling disappointed. No one was going to help the sapling. Birdie knew he had to do something, but the thought of facing the raging storm alone filled him with dread. His heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to stay afloat in the wind. Tears welled up in his eyes, blurring the already dark sky. He wanted to turn back, to curl up in his cozy nest and pretend the storm wasn't happening. But the thought of the sapling, so small and helpless, gave him strength. Birdie took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. Remembering his friend Hoot's words, he decided to face his fear. With a determined chirp, Birdie flew towards the sapling. As he got closer, he saw just how precarious its position was. The water was rising, and the young tree was being pulled further and further away from the bank. Birdie knew he had to act fast, but what could he possibly do to help? Just then he spotted a long, sturdy vine hanging from a nearby tree. It was thick enough for him to grab onto, and strong enough to withstand the storm. With a quick flap of his wings, Birdie swooped down and grabbed the end of the vine in his beak. He struggled to hold on as the wind tried to snatch it away, but Birdie was determined. He held tight and began to fly towards the sapling. The water was cold and the wind was harsh, but Birdie pressed on. He could feel the sapling's life force in the bend of the tree, and it gave him strength to keep going. Finally, he reached the sapling, and with a final effort, he tied the vine around the trunk, securing it to a large, old tree root. The water began to recede, and the winds slowly calmed down. The storm was passing. Birdie looked at the sapling now, safe and secure, and let out a shaky chirp. He had done it. He had faced his fear and helped someone in need. But as he turned to leave, he realized he had made a mistake. In his haste, he had gotten his feathers completely wet, and now that the storm was over, he was freezing. Birdie huddled on a nearby branch, shivering uncontrollably. He wished he had listened to Hoot and stayed in his cozy nest. Just then, the wise old owl flew down beside him. "You did well, Birdie," he said softly. "You showed true courage." Birdie looked up at the owl, confused. "But I was scared, Hoot. I didn't want to face the storm." Hoot nodded understandingly. "That's right, Birdie. You were scared, but you did it anyway. That's what makes you a hero." Birdie shook his head. "I don't feel like a hero. I feel wet, cold, and very, very scared." Hoot chuckled softly and ruffled Birdie's feathers with his wing. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared, Birdie. Sometimes being brave means doing something even when you're terrified. And you did that today. You saved that sapling, and that takes a lot of courage." Birdie looked down at his paws, still shaking. He had never thought of courage like that before. He had always assumed that brave meant strong and powerful, like the loud, boisterous birds that had flown away from the storm. But now he realized that true courage wasn't a roar. It was a whisper. It was a little voice inside him that had told him to help the sapling despite his fear. It was the quiet strength that had helped him face the storm. As the sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the forest, Birdie felt a sense of pride wash over him. He might be the smallest and most timid bird in the woods, but he had shown courage. And that, he realized, was the most powerful thing of all. From that day on, Birdie was still the same sweet, timid little bird, but something had changed. He had discovered a strength within himself he never knew existed. And though he still trembled at the sight of a stormy sky, he knew that if anyone ever needed his help, he wouldn't hesitate to face his fear and lend a wing. Because Birdie understood now that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. And so, friends, the tale of Birdie, the little bird, reminds us that sometimes the smallest acts of bravery, especially when we are scared, are the most powerful of all. We hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please give us a like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new stories. Also, we would love to hear your thoughts and comments, so please share them below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.